Hello, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. And we invite people on to help us who know lots of stuff that we don't know. So that's why I'm really psyched that we have Mark Podolsky with us today, because he's the owner of Frontier Properties, which is a land investment company. We haven't talked about land. We've talked about bigger, more expensive stuff, but land is such a cool, and this, I think, is perfect market for that. So he's also known as the Land Geek. Perfect guy for us today. And he is widely considered the country's most trusted and foremost authority on buying and selling raw, undeveloped land within the United States. Since 2001, Mark has completed over 6,000 raw land deals with an average return on investment. Okay, ready for this? Over 300% on cash purchases and over 1,000% on land deals that he financed. What? Yeah, awesome. He's also the host of one of the top rated podcasts out there in the investing category on iTunes, aptly named The Art of Passive Income Model, which passive income is where it's at. So get set to hear how much simpler investing in raw land is than traditional real estate. Mark, thank you so much for being with us today.
Christine McCarran, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's so awesome that you're here. But so before I jump into totally sucking all your information for my own personal needs, let's talk about how you got started with this. Was this always your plan? Is this always your thing? Like right out of, high school, you're like, right, I got to start investing in land.
No, not at all. So if we rewind the tape to 2000, I was a miserable, micromanaged 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker, specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And Christine, it got so bad for me. I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around. I'd have the Friday blues anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday.
That's a really stressful field.
It's terrible. And so my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar. He's flipping them online, and he's making a 300% return on his investment. And Christine, I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company, has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Average companies, 10%. Yeah. I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So of course, I don't believe him. So I've got three grand saved up for car repairs. I go to New Mexico with him. I do exactly what he tells me to do. I buy 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300 each. I flip them online, and they all sell for an average price of $1,200 each. It worked. So I took all that money and went to another, and I'm going to auctions, by the way. I'm going to tax deed auctions. And this is 2000. So I go to another one in Arizona, and there's no one in the room. So I'm buying up lots and acreage for like nothing. I made over $90,000 on that one auction. So I go to my wife, and she's pregnant at the time. I said, honey, I'm going to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. And she's like,
are you nuts?
She's like, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So it took me 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit, and I've been doing it full-time ever since.
Awesome. That is so amazing. And it's interesting that you bring up Arizona, because that's actually a place that I've been looking at. And again, I'm like, okay, what's the story? Why are these lots selling so cheap? I'm seeing like parcels that are selling for, a couple $1,000s an acre, or not even, here's this 30-acre parcel for $5,000. I'm like, well, what's that about? And so I, quickly discovered that you have to dig down 300 feet for a, for a well or whatever. But I mean, how are you, I guess, first, discovering where is a sort of an untapped place? Because here, I mean, I just saw an acre parcel with a house that needs to be torn down for $250,000. So obviously Boston area is not where you're going to be doing
so
these.
I'm not buying in Boston. Okay. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to start from the very beginning. I'm going to walk you step by step through exactly what I do.
Awesome.
And then we'll kind of answer more technical questions from there. Okay. So Christine, you're in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to assume that you own 5 acres of raw land in Arizona.
Okay.
But you owe $200 in back taxes. So you're advertising two important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to the raw land. You're in Massachusetts, the property is in Arizona. And number two, you're distressed financially in some weird way, because we don't pay for things like our property taxes. We don't value them in the same way. As a result, the county treasurer keeps sending you notices saying, Christine, if you don't pay your property taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or a tax lien investor. So all I'm going to do is look at the comparable sales on your 5-acre parcel for the last 12 to 18 months. I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale. Let's say it's $10,000. I'm going to divide by 4. That's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm going to send you an actual offer for $2,500. Now you accept it. Why? Because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing.
Right.
In reality, 3 to 5% of people will accept my quote unquote top dollar deal, but you accept it. Now, once you accept it, I have to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I have to confirm you still own the property. I have to confirm back taxes are only $200. I have to make sure there's been no breaks in the chain of title. There's no liens or encumbrances. And all this can be done very easily. I can either outsource it to my team in the Philippines. They're connected to an American title company, costs about $11. Or if it's $5,000 or more, I won't take any title risk and I'll close traditionally through an American title company. But while my team is doing their due diligence, I'm going to get aerial maps, plat maps, satellite maps, GIS maps, everything that my buyer is going to want to know as well. So I'm creating my marketing package at the exact same time I'm doing my due diligence. I want to know what's compelling about the property, what's planning and zoning, what are the restrictions. So I have this whole long checklist. It all checks out. I buy the property from you for $2,500. You get a check for $2,300. Treasury gets a check for $200. I own it free and clear. And now, Christine, I'm going to sell it 30 days or less and make a cash flow like a rental home. So, Christine, I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
No.
The neighbors. So
Right.
I'll send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy, protect your views, know your neighbor. Oftentimes the neighbors will buy. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyers list. My buyers list passes. I'll go to a little website you may have heard of. It's called Craigslist. It's the 15th most trafficked website in the United States. I'll go to one I know you've heard of called Meta or Facebook, buy-sell groups in the marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands, landmodo.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land. But the secret is in the pricing. So all I'm going to ask for is a $2,500 down payment for someone to control this 5-acre parcel. And then I'll make it a car payment. Let's say $297 a month at 9% interest over the next 84 months. So it's a one-time sale to get my money out on the down payment. I could go 6 to 10 months out. And now I'm getting $297 a month of passive income at 9% interest over the next 84 months. Christine, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, all this owner's real estate legislation. So it's a simple game. Can I create enough land notes where my passive income exceeds my fixed expenses? And now I'm working because I want to, not because I have to.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it. It's so interesting because the very first person I interviewed for the podcast was Tyler Sheff, and he's the, the cash flow guy. He's got his thing, and that's basically what he said, like I just figure out how to make $100, and then I just keep doing that as many times as I need to do it in order to make, as much money as I want every month. And that's exactly what you're doing, rather than taking the full, whatever, 10 grand or whatever, and just trying to do something with it. You're just allowing this person to just keep, creating this passive income stream. And it's just a machine, right? It just becomes a machine.
Exactly. It's a passive income machine. And what's amazing about it today, it's not like this when I started. It's 90% automated. Software on the front end, inexpensive virtual assistants throughout the world, and software on the back end. So once you've scaled it, sky's the limit. You can build this as big or as small as you want.
Now, are there certain areas that are easier to do this in, or more ripe for this type of?
Yeah. I mean, Christine, let's just be honest, right? No one wakes up, thinks to themselves, boy, I like some raw land today in Iowa, unless you live in Iowa, right? So we want to focus on Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, California, maybe a little bit in the Northwest, Oregon, Washington, and Florida. These are fast growing states. These are the sunshine states. This is where you're going to get your biggest buyer pool. It's not to say that we can't do deals at other places, but for example, like Boston, if I got an infill lot in Boston, I'm not selling it to you for 25, 30 cents a dollar. I'm going to the biggest, baddest land broker in town. I'm selling that bad boy 110 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Right. So there's going to be certain areas where it won't work.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like you're saying, you're choosing states where there is a lot of raw land, right? So that,
Right.
and people buy stuff and just don't, either they inherit it or whatever, right? I mean, some of these people, do you ever find people who didn't even realize that they had this land? Right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's such an inefficient market. It's so weird because people don't use it. They're paying property taxes. They don't know they have it. They forgot about it. It'll literally be like if I offered you right now 25, 30 cents on the dollar for everything in your garage you're not using.
Right.
Right. You're like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I'll take it.
Take
Exactly.
it. Right.
Please clean my garage. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there, I mean, what's your sort of success rate? I don't even mean like that. I really mean like as far as being able to get the right person, because I send mailings, right? Just like random mailings as part of being a real estate agent. And like half the time, not half the time, but a percentage of the time, the person doesn't even live where the tax people think they live. And that's a whole thing. Do you just kind of let that stuff go? There's so much that you can just say, forget that, or?
Well, we have such a big market. So there's billions of acres of land available in the United States.
Yeah.
I couldn't, pick the more boring niche. Like you're not going on the HGTV or DIY network and say, flip this land. The before picture is raw land. The after picture is raw land. So
didn't I do a great job?
Yeah. So if you go to a RIA meeting, right, there's a real estate investment association meeting, there's 100 people in the room, 99 of them will be flippers, landlords, and wholesalers. You and I will be the only land people there. So essentially, for let's just say every 100 offers that I make, I'll get a 3 to 5% response rate. But of those 3 to 5 that respond, I'll probably close on 1%.
Oh, wow. So it's a lot. You're sending out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it depends on you and your budget. I mean, you, me, a million people could be in this niche. We'll all run out of money before we run out of deal flow.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, interesting. And then have you experimented with different types of like what actually goes into this first outreach? Is it all by mail? Is that how you're reaching everybody?
Well, it could be by mail, certainly, but there's going to be a community of people that are already doing this. So I could buy wholesale, right? So for example, you've already done your mailings and you've done the due diligence. You bought it 25, 30 cents a dollar. You flipped to me 50, 60 cents a dollar. You leave enough meat on the bone for me to sell at retail. I don't have to do a mailing.
Yeah, right. Huh, interesting. Do you do coaching and stuff? Do you have students that you help to do this kind of thing?
Yeah, my whole purpose in life is to help people get out of what I call solo economic dependency, which means if they're personally not working, they're not making any money. So think about anybody with a job, freelancers. Let's pick on people that have solved their money problems, but not their time problems. Doctors, lawyers, dentists, right? The dentist's hands are in the patient's mouth. The dentist isn't generating any revenue.
Right.
So I believe that once people's passive income exceeds their fixed expenses, they can move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs into self-actualization and really do what they really feel called to do, their greatest purpose in life.
Yeah. And is that yours? I mean, are you doing other like, oh my God, kind of like checking all your boxes now that you've got this nice passive income stream?
Yeah. I mean, my oldest is going to college next year, or my youngest is going, I should say my two are in college now. My youngest graduates high school next year. So I've been practicing like this summer. I went to Bali, I went to Saigon. But my plan is to travel when she's in college. I'm going to start traveling around the world. Maybe do 3-month chunks, come back 3 months, come back. My parents thank God, are still here. So, I certainly don't want to just be traveling all the time and missing out on my family and friends.
Yeah. There's a line there, but that sounds fantastic. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, tell us about the book. Have you written another book already? I apologize.
Yeah. So I have a book called Dirt Rich. which
Yeah,
explains
that's right.
exactly what I
Yep.
talked about with you
Yep.
and tells my story. But then I wrote Dirt Rich 2, the plot thickens, how to scale your land
So good.
business. Thank you. And so I'm very proud of that. That book right now is almost done. Almost done.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
by
it's
the time we
done.
air, it'll be
Like,
finished and people will be able to
it'll be
buy it.
done. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just going through the final touches now.
Yeah. Fun. Awesome. So how does that differ? So Dirt Rich was explaining the kind of things in a longer way that you just told us, right? Basically.
Right, right. So Dirt Rich is more high level. Dirt Rich 2 is I'm in the land business, but I want to get myself out of the business. I want to become the CEO. So the philosophy is we can always make more money. We can't get more time. Well,
Right.
how do I get myself out of the land business and really create this machine so I can work when I want, where I want, and with whom I want, and have total freedom?
Awesome. Oh, that sounds great. I definitely have to get that one. Excellent. So what was the most challenging part when you first started this? Was it just like, hey, that was easy? Or was there a lot of like learning curve?
Oh, there's a ton of learning curve. I mean, I remember thinking that I was doing really well, and I was doing really well, financially, and I was enjoying what I was doing. But if you looked at my day, you'd be like, this is not a business. You really built another job for yourself.
Yeah.
So I go to a coffee with my mentor, Ori, and this guy sold his company for $360 million to, Experian. And so I'm having coffee with them. I'm kind of like, humble bragging. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm like, somehow I slipped out like I'm an entrepreneur or something. And he's like, stop. He's like, don't insult me. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, your so-called business. He's like, what happens with, you know, you, God forbid, die or become disabled? Like, what happens to your family? And like, he's like, who's doing the deals? Who's doing the due diligence? He's like, you're doing everything. It's like, you don't have a business. You got a nice job. It feels like you're making your own hours. It's just better than what you were doing before. So
Right.
then he's like, this is what you got to do. And I started, scaling and systematically getting out of it,
Yeah.
and creating the systems, the processes, and the software, and actually create a real business.
Yeah. And that is a challenge, right? I mean, that's what a lot of entrepreneurs are doing. They're just trading one shitty boss for the next, like that. I used to say that about myself, I work for
Yeah,
myself. My boss is a
absolutely.
bitch. That's what I used to say.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's true. And that's not freedom. So
Right. Exactly.
yeah, you want to be
Exactly.
a slave to your so-called business.
Yeah. Oh, it's good that you kept in touch with him, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, he still helps me today. Yeah.
Awesome. And that is a process of like you were talking about, you've got your outsourcing stuff to the Philippines, you've got some automation. When you,
Yeah, no, it's all night. It's 90% of this is automated. I work about 30 minutes a week in Frontier Properties. And so that 30 minutes is having a call with my acquisition manager. How many offers went out? How many deals are pending? How many deals are closed? How is the team doing? How can I support you? And then sometimes if I'm, taking a long walk, I'm like, oh, can we do this? And I'll box him and I'll ruin his day because everything's working. And now I want to break something.
right.
Yeah.
That's when you're getting good ideas though, right? When you're walking or doing something else and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, we
Oh,
got to
wait,
do
can we do
this.
this? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I
Awesome.
think that's really what is the beautiful thing about being the CEO is having that time to do the hard work of thinking. Whereas if you're just working, you've lost your competitive advantage. It's
Right.
the person who can think the longest and the deepest about that problem or solving it or looking at it differently that has the advantage.
Yeah. It's so interesting because yesterday or actually Saturday, we went to a barbecue or Sunday, I don't know. And my boyfriend's, whatever he is, brother-in-law used to work for Papagenos. And he was saying how they just didn't see delivery coming. And I thought, how the hell could you not see delivery coming? I mean, that's so obvious. I said, who's eating pizza? People who are drinking beer, people who are watching the game. Who wants to go out and get a pizza? You want it to come to your house. I mean, that's so obvious, but they were so in the thick of it, like we got the best ovens and we got the best this and that. Like, go take a walk, step back and like think, like obviously delivery's coming, right? It's just,
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, I mean, what's one of the craziest examples is Kodak.
yeah.
They created the digital camera and they just put their nose up to it. Oh,
So,
it's
who would
so
want this?
inferior. Who would want this? Well, everyone wanted it.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want it? Come on, like,
Right.
I know there's a million examples like that. And in retrospect, like obviously Netflix is going to take over Blockbuster, right? I mean, but Blockbuster didn't see it. Why not? I mean, yeah, exactly. You got to be out there. You got to be at the high level. You got to be able to just think and like imagine things through. And how could this possibly be better? And yeah, and then you got to bring on board the people who are actually doing the day to day, who are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when you do become somewhat successful, that's when you become paranoid, and you start thinking, okay, how does this get disrupted? And I love that Jeff Bezos question: if everything's going to change, what's not going to change? And so you start thinking, okay, well,
People still need to buy stuff. That's not going to change.
well, yeah. I mean, for me, like I always think, okay, well, in the land business, people always want a good deal, and they'll always want a real asset.
Yeah.
But if that ever changes, how would I pivot?
Yeah. So how would you pivot?
Well, I guess I would look at something what people really wanted at that time.
Yeah.
That,
Just pivot, be whole in the
that
business.
had a moat, that had a something that's more defensible, and based on the experience I've had in the land business. Well, I'd want something that had no physical inventory, was a one-time sale, had monthly recurring revenue, and had good margins, right?
Yeah.
No, less competitive pressures. So
Yeah.
I would just work back from that. I really think, deeply about this, and I think, well, I think I have the best passive income model, but I think there's one that might be even better, and that's insurance. Because insurance is a one-time sale. You get passive income every single month. But the problem with insurance is it's the margins may not be as great. It's a little more competitive, but it's just an idea. You don't have to go out and buy anything.
Yeah. Have some kind of like land insurance, right? You can come up with some kind of an
Yeah,
idea. Like,
exactly. The only problem with
if your
insurance
land
is,
gets blown off, I mean, what could happen? I don't know.
yeah, but you go to a party and everybody avoids you. That part sucks.
Not much you can do about that.
Yeah.
So when you are getting, I'm just thinking about like the logistics, like thinking through the whole process. I got to stop hitting this necklace. It's screwing up my sound. Are you getting like, when you're looking for people who are behind on their taxes, are you just buying lists and stuff like that? Or is there a place where you go to find that information, or how are you?
Yeah. I mean, you go to datatree.com, and if you want to get a discount, shameless plug, datatree.com/the Land Geek. You get a discount, and you can get the lists from any county. And then what I would do is I would scrub that list. So if I got all the real property in, say, this county in New Mexico, well, I would scrub by use code. Let's say it's VL for vacant land. Now I've gotten rid of all the industrial property, the commercial property, the residential homes. And now I'm just left with vacant land. Then I would do one more scrub. So I would want to search by, or I would sort by assessor's parcel number or subdivision. So that way I'm not sending somebody with 40 acres the same offer as somebody with 5 acres. Right. That 40-acre person will send me that glitter in the mail. I don't want that.
So these people, you're still buying it from the owner though? These are just people who have been threatened with foreclosure or threatened with.
I'm still buying it from the owner. That's gonna be our lowest hanging fruit. Once I've determined this is a good market, I'll mail everybody. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got the people who are behind on their taxes, and the city at some point is going to take over their land, but they haven't yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, but it sounds like before you were doing auctions where they've already taken it over, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So the auction is for the county to collect the taxes at that point in time.
Is that more messy?
Yeah, it's definitely more messy. It's more competitive. You got a room full of people. It's a competitive auction. I want that property before it goes auction.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think even legally or logistically, there's like a reclamation thing, right? The people want to come back and pay it off or something.
It depends on the county. It's not, that rarely happens in raw land.
Yeah.
It's in homes, it's very different, right? That's an emotional asset.
Well, the homes, a lot of times they're still there, right?
They're
That's
still
really
there.
messy.
Yeah. I forget that. I think like 95% of tax liens get redeemed
Yeah.
in houses. And the tax lien business is a great business, but it's run by hedge funds and private equity groups, and they're doing all types of financial engineering and fun stuff.
Yeah. And I know there are people who teach how to get into that whole business and stuff like that, but I don't know. I actually know some people who do it, and it just feels a little messy to me. It's just a little too hands-on, right?
It's quite a job, and it's
yeah.
a due diligence game. And I mean, look, you can make 16 to 40% on your money if you really dial it in. But I think it's tough to do, though.
And you're like, well, I'm making 300%, so I'm pretty happy. If you're to 1,000, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So time value money, we average 800, 1,200% return on our money on a terms deal, 300, 500% on a cash deal.
It's awesome. Is there like in certain, some, I was saying that the stuff that I was looking at in Arizona, the prices are quite low. Is that, do you have like high price points, or are most of these, fairly modest investments?
Yeah, I mean, they could be higher. We've done $1 million deals all the way up to, $500 for a parcel. So it just depends. I mean, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
So this is very early days, and I'm in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Have you ever heard of Las Vegas, New Mexico?
I didn't know they had one.
There's a university there. But I'm looking at land with my buddy, and we're driving around, and I'm telling you, Christine, this is so ugly. It looked like Chernobyl to me. And we could buy these properties over the counter for like $50, and they're like an acre parcel. It was because like they went to auction, nobody even bought them.
Nobody wanted them.
They were so bad. So my buddy's like, for $50, I bet I could flip them for $100, and I'll buy them. You want to split it with me? I'm like, dude, no. I'm like, you sell this, there's two things that are gonna happen. You're gonna get refunds or lawsuits. She's like, I don't know. He's like, so he tries it. He buys them all. I don't buy any. So the first week,
How many are we talking about?
There's 100 of them.
Oh my God.
So first week, they're selling for like $1,000, and so he sends me an email about a sale. I email him back, refund. Another sale, I email him back, lawsuit. This goes on. He sells out. He makes like over 100 grand, and guess how many refunds?
Uh-oh.
0. No lawsuits. So it was a $50,000 lesson I learned. I'm not the buyer. There's a pig for every barn.
Right. That is so key. Especially, I feel like right now, because there's so much excitement between podcasts and, just the media and everything, so much excitement about the idea of being a real estate investor that, people are willing to say, yeah, what, for $1,000, $2,000, I'll take this piece of land. I'll hold on to it someday. Something will be here, not thinking that all the baby boomers are dying off and there's nobody left to buy stuff. And it's fun. I mean, that's why I was like, I'm out in Arizona and I'm driving by all these for sale signs. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. You got a beautiful view of this little mesa thing. And, I could put like a cabin here and make it like an Airbnb, freestanding, because that's my thing. Like I'm an Airbnb geek, and like, I could just put a little cabin here. It's like only an hour from the Grand Canyon, like why not? And I start looking, I'm like, okay, well, there's no water. And it's like, whatever it is, $200 a mile, a foot to drill a well, and you're going to have to drill a 300-foot well, or you can get water delivery. I'm like, oh, wow. Or I can just tell people, yeah, no water, no running water, bring your own. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm not alone is what I'm saying. Like there's somebody else out there who's thinking, oh, for $5,000 or for $1,000 or for whatever, what the heck, right? Why not just buy it? And then.
No, it's true. I mean, look, there's a great Ted Turner quote, buy land, it's the only thing that lasts. And it's a great legacy investment. Think about it. Everything else in our lives will go away. I mean, even at some point, styrofoam decomposes. That lasts like
Eventually.
Eventually. But land will last forever. So it's this great legacy investment.
Yeah.
And so people will just buy it like, like women like jewelry, just like they just like the feeling of it.
Yeah, just collect their, titles and stuff. And right, why not?
Yeah.
Well,
They
even,
made everyone go
things
out
you might
there.
not think about, like maybe someday they'll find, oil or, like mineral rights, things like that, that you don't necessarily think about. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, but you're right. You're not the buyer. What other
I'm
like
not the buyer.
lessons have you kind of learned along the way?
Fear is a big problem with newbies. So what happens is, dear listener, this will probably happen to you, is if you start, trying out the model and you'll get an accepted offer. And then you know what will happen? You'll stop mailing because you'll think to yourself, well, I'm not buying any more land until I sell this one.
Oh,
Well, there's a 6 to 8 week lag time. So you don't want to be a chicken company with no chicken. Never stop mailing.
yeah, that's good. That's definitely good advice. Cause that happens like in the real estate world as real estate agents, right? You've got this transaction, it's taking up all your time and you're not doing any other marketing. All your other clients are dead to you until you're done with this transaction. And then, well, guess what? Now you have 2 or 3 months with plenty of time to get, because you're just not, you got to keep your pipeline, right? You got to keep that pipeline active.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if I were going to all right, first of all, what is your favorite part? In the beginning, what was your favorite part about doing this?
Well, I think for me in the beginning, I loved just the just the whole process of it, really. I'm a deal junkie. So I love the idea of getting a deal. It really resonated with me. My dad was a wholesale grocer, and as a kid, I'd be in the grocery store and I'd go like, Dad, can I have this pack of gum? He's like, Dad, no, it's $1. I buy it for 85 cents. And so like
Yes.
I kind of grew up like everything's a deal. And so the land business, everything's a deal. I'm buying everything on sale. The whole world's on sale to me. I
Right.
really like that aspect. And then it's really fun to see the joy in people when they buy something new. And because you have such a big buyer pool, like if you got a job, you can afford this land.
Right.
And to
Yeah.
hear
And
their
the way you've
stories
set
of
it
people,
up is perfect.
yeah, and just to see how people are creative. Like I had a guy call me once, he's like, um, you know, do you know what's out there? I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, there's rattlesnakes out there. He's like, and I hunt rattlesnakes. And sure enough, he buys a 5 acre parcel, and his friend calls the next day. He's like, I'm gonna join Billy. You got the adjoining 5 acre parcel available? And they go out there, they hunt rattlesnakes.
Oh my
And
God.
so for me, that was like a ton of fun, just hearing how people were creatively going to use a property, or the things they were going to do. There was one guy that every July 4th he would get like 50 buddies. He owned 40 acres in Nevada, and they would just go out there and they would camp out. And he's like, Mark, you've never experienced dark like this. There's no lights. He's like, it's true dark. And so hearing these stories of people getting back to nature and the way that they would use it was like really cool. And then just kind of being a geek, I really love the building the systems and the processes and getting to the point where it was just a machine.
Yeah.
So that part really resonated with me.
In the beginning, did you go and look at a lot of this stuff? Was that part of what you were kind of like exploring neighborhoods and stuff?
Yeah, until Ori was like, "What are you doing?" And then I'm like, "Due diligence is like, no, not a good use of your time." So now it's like for $50, I have a local go out there, and take pictures, shoot video, fill out my property checklist. I don't need to go out there.
Well, maybe when you get when your kids are all in college, you might say, yeah, you know what? I want to start doing that again. Maybe I'm going to go bring my
No,
tent,
I don't love looking at land. Once you get out there, all looks the same.
Yeah.
No,
Cool. What are you most looking forward to in the next, like couple of years? Is it mostly your travel stuff?
I think for me, I really want to help more people and make a bigger impact. And I love buying and selling raw land. Don't get me wrong, but it really helps a few people.
Yeah.
But when someone calls me and says, "Mark, this business changed my life," that to me is the most gratifying thing I've ever done professionally. So I think to help people, replace their income or retire their spouse so they can spend more time with their family. I just, at the end of the day, I just want to be a good ancestor and help as many people as I can.
That's beautiful. Fantastic. Awesome. So before we get into like what somebody should do this afternoon so they could start heading in this really awesome direction, is there anything that you wish I would have asked you that we haven't touched on yet?
No, I think you've been very thorough. Yeah.
Thanks.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. Well, this is actually year 4 for this podcast. So I have a little bit of experience with interviewing people in it. But there's always, you can always do better. So just always looking for like, oh, what's that one thing? But okay, so let's say, Mark, somebody's listening to this and they're like totally fired up and they're like, oh my God, I want this. I want to do this thing. It sounds like awesome to me. I really want to get into it. What's like the first piece of advice or one really great, either like checklist or advice or whatever you think they should have?
I think they should educate themselves. And I think the best way to learn anything is by doing it. So I have a free course, How to Double Your Money, 30 days or less. I think that's a great place to start. So if they go to the landgeek.com/quick deals, the landgeek.com/quick deals, they can start learning this, doing it, making money. And if it resonates with them, they'll go into it deeper. If it doesn't, they'll go into house hacking or Airbnb or ATM investing. Doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, there's such a thing as like website flipping, apparently, like some
Website
people,
flipping.
yeah, they can flip some websites, say whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's excellent advice. And I'm going to do it because I want to learn about this kind of stuff. And it just sounds fun. And, I'm going to do what you did. I'm going to in the beginning, I'm going to drive around. I'm going to look at the land and make it a vacation, right? I'm going to I got to go to Arizona. And it's a write-off. And so I can look at this land.
Right off.
While I'm here, maybe I'll just do a little sightseeing, just a little bit while I'm here. And so just a few days in a spa. That's all.
There you go.
Awesome. Excellent. And so now the both books, what's the best way to get? Is it just Amazon or should they go on your website? What's the best way to get your books?
I think the best way is probably on the website, thelandgeek.com/dirtrich, but it's on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
And then, Dirt Rich 2, when it comes out, will be on the website as well.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Super duper.
I don't want to give Amazon their cut.
Yeah. I know. I got a check for like 9 cents. Like they just said, oh, look at this deposit, 9 cents. Maybe I sold the book or maybe I sold 10 books. I have no idea, but this 9 cents, okay, great.
Yeah, exactly.
They're taking and they take a big piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's like any like big pieces, like big knowledge gaps that I feel like I need before I go take the course. I think you're good. I think you've just covered everything. You really you got this down to a science. It's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I try. I mean, I've been doing it a long time.
Well, but I mean, I especially because that some people would have got stuck in the weeds, that they would still be doing all the day-to-day stuff. And, because you're just like, hey, I'm not, oh, what do you mean I'm not supposed to be doing every single thing myself? Oh, what do you mean? I got it, right? You're just thinking about the much bigger, smarter, more true entrepreneurial picture.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
because that's
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that's worth talking about for just a second, because people think that because they don't have a traditional boss, that makes them an entrepreneur, but you just work for yourself. It's not the same thing, right?
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing because no one is making money if you're not doing the work. So,
yeah, I mean, think about Steve Jobs, right? When Steve Jobs died, Apple did not crumble at all. If anything, they've flourished, right?
Yep,
so
exactly.
It'll be interesting. I mean, God forbid if Elon Musk dies, what will happen to Tesla? So it's
their stock is going to go right.
Well, I thought the same thing with Apple. So these visionary CEOs, but if they're building something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And if they're doing it well, those companies flourish without them.
Yeah.
And so that's really what an entrepreneur does. They build something bigger than themselves. It just operates well without them. Your values, your culture lives beyond you. And so that's what I, aspire to keep building as well.
Are your kids involved in this at all? Are they interested in this?
You think they would be, but they're too young. So I'm excited for them to get their first bad job And then they'd be like, Dad, okay,
Well,
what did you do
what did you
again?
do again, Dad?
What do you do? Yeah. So they're not that interested. They have their own interests. Yeah.
For now.
For now.
Awesome.
But they'll wait till they get a little taste of economic dependency. Then they're gonna be excited.
Yeah, exactly. Once they've had their first like horrible, whatever, sweaty, yucky, stressful kind of job where they're afraid they're going to get fired, they'll be like, gee, Dad doesn't seem to be going through this every day. Maybe he does know something.
Yeah, and I was very lucky. I mean, as a dad, because I worked from home, I was able to spend so much time with them. Now, the jury's still out whether that was a good or bad thing, but selfishly for me, it was amazing. And all these other dads be coming home 6 o'clock at night. They'd be tired. They'd dinner, read their kids a bedtime story, go to bed, and do the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
I mean, Monday and Saturday were the same day for me.
Right. Exactly. Well, your kids aren't in jail, right? So you probably did okay.
Oh yeah, no, they're not in jail. Yeah.
Awesome. Mark, I love talking with you. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your land geekiness with us. So the landgeek.com, check it out, take the course, get dirt rich. Just let Mark put his knowledge into your head and see what it does for you. Watch how your life changes, right?
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, I mean, it's really important, I think, to solve not just your money problems, but your money and time problems.
Yeah,
and at the end of the
exactly.
day, we could always make more money. We can't get more time.
Exactly. So wise. Awesome. Thank you. And listeners, make sure you're here next week. Who knows what we're going to be talking about, but I know it's going to be cool and you're going to love it. And thank you so much for being with us today. And I know you got some value from Mark, and I bet 10 other people who could get value as well. So be sure to share this episode with them and have a good week.